The angels, perfect and powerful, stood ready. Yet God made an astonishing choice. You. This isn't just a theological debate. It's a profound mystery with implications for every single one of us. Discover the astonishing truth about why humanity, not angels, holds a unique place in the divine plan. Before light fractured the void, before the stars were strung across the fabric of space, before even the word beginning was spoken, there was God. Absolute, holy, eternal. From his glory came fire, and from that fire came angels, flames of purpose, spirits of light, perfect in beauty, power, and order. They stood in ranks beyond number, thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers, each glowing with the reflection of his presence. They were not created in weakness or decay, but in glory and perfection, clothed in radiance, wielding strength that could split mountains and shake the heavens. Their voices shook the realms. Their wings stirred the winds of eternity. They saw the throne unveiled, the sapphire pavement underfoot, the sea of glass around the glory. And they worshipped. They did not tire. They did not fall ill. They did not forget. Yet amid all their splendor, a mystery began to stir in the heart of the Creator, a mystery that would send ripples through heaven itself. For when God chose to unveil his grand design, he looked not to the seraphim who sing without ceasing, nor to the cherubim who guard the throne with eyes of fire. He looked downward, to a void yet unfilled, to a world yet unformed, to a creature yet unshaped. And he spoke, "Let us make man in our image. Dust, not fire, clay, not glory. Man, formed from the soil of the earth, molded by divine hands and animated by breath, not created in flame but formed in fragility, not stationed before the throne, but placed in a garden, and yet given something the angels were never offered, the image of God, the capacity for communion, the invitation to reign. This was no casual artistic decision. It was a declaration, a cosmic paradox, a divine reversal that would defy every expectation of rank and worth. Angels, who had known only holiness, watched as a being made from mud stood at the center of divine affection. They were not jealous yet, but they were watching. For God did not simply make man. He walked with him, he spoke to him, he entrusted him with dominion. And when man fell, when the dust turned from glory to shame, it was not the angels God reached for, it was man. This is the heart of the mystery. God never offered salvation to the angels who rebelled. There was no cross for them, no incarnation, no empty tomb. But for the dust that defied him, he planned redemption. A plan not born in response to sin, but foreknown before the foundation of the world. A plan that would not just cleanse the sinner, but indwell the vessel. For while angels carried his words, only man would one day carry his spirit. This is the divine paradox that splits the skies and silences seraphim. That the Most High would bind himself to weakness, that he would prefer the fragile over the flawless, that he would choose what was unclean to bear what was holy. And still, the question trembles through eternity. Why? What did God see in us that he did not see in them? Was it potential? Was it story? Or was it simply love, so deep, so fierce, that it would reach for the lowest in order to reveal the highest? This question is not philosophical. It is personal. For it means that your existence was not an accident. Your value is not measured by strength, but by selection. God chose you, not as an afterthought, not as a plan B, but as the centerpiece of a plan older than creation itself. The angels were astonished, not because God loved, this they had seen, but because of who he loved. Dust, finite, mortal, vulnerable. And in that dust, he planted eternity. In that weakness, he wove purpose. And through that choice, he shattered the hierarchy of heaven. For though angels shine like stars, they were never called sons. Though they dwell in light, they were never called bride. And though they stand in the presence of glory, they were never promised a seat beside the throne. But you were. And that truth, that scandal of divine preference, is the first revelation in the great unfolding mystery. God chose humanity, not because of what we were, but because of what he would make us. Not because of strength, but because of love. Not because of merit, but because of grace. And everything that follows in Scripture, from Eden to Calvary, from Pentecost to Revelation, is the echo of that first choice. The shocking, sacred, sovereign decision to prefer dust over fire, to lift the lowly, and to crown the unworthy with everlasting glory. Before we continue, if this content has blessed your life, like, comment, and share. Subscribe to the channel, and if you would like to bless the channel, click the Super Thanks button and leave an offering of any amount, or become a member. That way, we can continue investing in research and improvements to bless your life even more. They were the firstborn of glory, not by blood or inheritance, but by the majesty of their creation. Angels, fashioned in the fire of divine will, radiant and terrifying, instruments of God's holiness and power. Before Adam rose from the dust, they soared through the chambers of eternity. Before Eden bloomed, they gathered in countless numbers before the throne, their wings stirring the stillness of heaven, their voices thunderous with praise. The book of Job reveals that when God laid the foundations of the earth, the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These sons were not human, they were celestial, spirits ablaze with purpose, beings who had never known sin, decay, or death. They were not born, they were spoken into being, each one unique, precise, and eternal. Thrones, dominions, principalities, powers, these were not titles of honor alone, but ranks in a divine hierarchy older than time itself. Each name implied a purpose. Each order formed part of a grand architecture, a spiritual government under the authority of the Most High. Some guarded mysteries, others delivered messages. Some fought against darkness, others ministered to those who would inherit salvation. Their loyalty was their glory, their service their worship. They walked among stones of fire. They beheld the sapphire pavement of the throne. They witnessed the full spectrum of divine holiness, unfiltered by flesh. The seraphim, burning with eternal fire, cried, "Holy, holy, holy," without ceasing. The cherubim, covered in eyes and crowned with wings, bore the throne itself on their backs. They were not simply beautiful, they were terrifying, overwhelming, pure. And yet, for all their radiance, there was something God withheld from them, something unspeakably precious. The image, the likeness, the inheritance. Not one of them, from the lowest messenger to the highest guardian, was made in the image of God. Not one was called child. Not one was promised a throne beside the Lamb. Their creation was glorious, but it was not intimate. They were servants, not sons. Observers, not heirs. They knew the throne, but not the heart. And this, hidden for ages, would become the great divine distinction between heaven's flames and earth's dust. For while angels stood in God's presence, only man was invited to carry God's presence within. While angels spoke his word, only man was destined to become his dwelling place. The author of Hebrews makes it plain. To which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you"? Or again, "I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me"? The answer is none. For though they were mighty in strength, Their role was not to inherit, but to serve. They were guardians of the plan, not recipients of the promise. They ministered to heirs. They were never the heirs themselves. And here lies the tension that trembles through the unseen realm, that a creature so glorious could remain a servant, while a creature so fragile could become a son. Angels were not ignorant of this. They saw the unfolding mystery. They observed the garden. They heard the covenant. They watched the prophets. And when the Son of God took on flesh, not the form of an angel, but the form of man, the mystery was unveiled in full. The firstborn of heaven came, not to elevate angels, but to redeem mankind. And the angels watched with holy silence. Some rejoiced, others rebelled. For it is written, "He has not subjected the world to come to angels." It belongs to those united with the Son. This was not an accident. It was the design from the beginning, that the highest throne would not be shared with flames, but with those born of spirit, adopted through blood, and refined in grace. And though angels will forever surround the throne in worship, the seats beside the King are not theirs to occupy. They belong to the redeemed, to those called from dust. This revelation does not diminish the angels. It magnifies the mystery of God's love, that he who dwells in unapproachable light would reach into the soil and raise a family, that he would pass over the glorious to exalt the weak, that he would write his name not on the foreheads of seraphim, but on the hearts of men. And the angels, those firstborn of glory, will forever sing the song of the Lamb, but they will never sing the song of the redeemed. For only man knows the weight of grace. Only man knows the miracle of mercy. Only man was lost and found. And in that truth lies the wonder that will echo through eternity, that those who once bore only the image of dust are now crowned with glory greater than angels, seated with Christ in heavenly places, and called not servants, but sons. When the heavens were young and the earth still void, a hush fell over the realm of the divine. The foundations of the world had already been laid, the stars pinned into the velvet night, and the oceans roared with freshly summoned life. Angels, the fiery firstborn of glory, watched from the heights as mountains rose and rivers carved their courses across the untouched dust. They had seen much: thunder forged, light born, galaxies spun into perfect form. But now they beheld something utterly new, not in magnitude, but in mystery. For the Most High stooped down, not to speak, but to form. His hands, which had cast stars, now pressed into clay. The ground trembled under the weight of such a gesture. There, in the silence of Eden's dawn, the Lord God shaped a figure from the soil, not blazing with fire like the cherubim, not crowned with wings or flame, but human, earthbound, fragile. And then came the moment that stilled all of heaven. God leaned in and breathed, not wind, not power, himself. The breath of God entered the nostrils of the man, and in that instant, clay became creature. Adam's lungs filled not just with oxygen, but with spirit. The Hebrew word used is ruach, meaning breath, wind, or spirit. It is the same term used to describe the Spirit of God hovering over the waters in Genesis 1:2. This was not mere animation, it was impartation. Something of God was deposited into man, something eternal, something relational. For the first time in the saga of existence, a creature existed who could reflect, feel, reason, choose, love, and respond. Angels were magnificent, but none were like God. None bore his image. None were breathed into. They were spirits created to serve, but man was a being created to share communion, to share purpose, to share destiny. Adam was not just alive, he was aware. And in his awareness, he perceived not only creation, but Creator. He was not just a mind, he was a soul. He did not just move, he worshipped. He walked with God in the cool of the day, not as a servant trembling before a king, but as a son walking with a father. This image, this reflection of the divine, was more than a trait. It was a calling. To bear God's likeness was to act as his representative, his steward, his mirror on the earth. It meant creativity, moral agency, the capacity to choose righteousness, and the ability to enter into covenant. And perhaps most shockingly, it meant the ability to fall. For where there is choice, there is risk. Angels who rebelled fell permanently, irrevocably, consumed by their own pride and locked into their decision forever. But man was different. From the moment of that first breath, he was not only capable of communion, he was capable of redemption. Redemption presupposes fallibility. The very structure of human design carried within it the potential not only for sin, but for salvation. And that potential was no accident. It was providence. In humanity, God had crafted a vessel, not merely for obedience, but for transformation. A being who could fall and be lifted, be wounded and be healed, be lost and be found. Unlike angels who were either loyal or damned, man could be broken and remade. He could die and yet live again. This capacity revealed a dimension of God's nature that had never been seen before. Mercy. For what is mercy without weakness? What is grace without failure? What is healing without pain? In man, the invisible attributes of God, his compassion, his patience, his sacrificial love, would find their fullest expression. This is why the enemy struck so fiercely in the garden. Satan, once Lucifer, understood what had happened. He had seen creation. He had known glory. But never had he witnessed such intimacy between the divine and dust. And it enraged him, for God had made man reachable, touchable, breathable, redeemable. So the serpent whispered, and the fall came. The breath of God, though not removed, became shrouded by sin. The image, though not erased, became marred. And yet, even in that moment, the promise rang out. Redemption would come through the very seed that had fallen. The same breath that had once filled Adam would one day be poured out again. This time, not into clay, but into hearts of flesh made new. The prophets saw it dimly. Ezekiel declared, "I will put my spirit within you, and you shall live." Joel cried, "I will pour out my spirit on all flesh." Jesus fulfilled it. "Receive the Holy Spirit," he said, breathing once more on his disciples after rising from the dead. Pentecost came, and with it, the sound of a rushing wind. The Ruach returned, the breath that gave life in Eden now gave power in Jerusalem. And thus, the great transformation began, not merely of men, but of mankind. What had been breathed into Adam as identity was now poured out through Christ as destiny. The clay that once bore the image of God now became the temple of God. Angels could not comprehend it. Paul writes, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that His Spirit dwells in you?" No angel had ever held such a privilege. Not even the highest archangel had been invited to become the dwelling place of the Almighty. And yet, you are. This is what sets humanity apart. Not strength, not purity, not power, but the breath, the indwelling, the unexplainable, unrepeatable, irreversible mystery that God not only made you in His image, but chose to live in you by His Spirit. That breath was not just the beginning of life, it was the beginning of love. And it is still breathing, even now, in you, through you, and for eternity. There was a moment in eternity, before Eden, before the serpent, before the fall, when heaven itself trembled, not from an outside force, but from a fracture born within its own ranks. Among the multitudes of radiant beings that surrounded the throne, one stood apart, not in design, but in desire. He had walked among the fiery stones. He had stood nearest the throne. He was adorned with every precious stone, crowned with wisdom, and anointed as a guardian cherub. His name was Lucifer, light-bearer. He was not born into evil, but into splendor. Created perfect in beauty and brilliance, he reflected the glory of God more than any other. The prophets would later write of his voice, like music, and his presence, like dawn. But even the brightest star, when turned inward, begins to collapse. For when God revealed his plan, not merely to create a new world, but to form within it a creature of dust who would one day reign with him, something shifted in Lucifer's heart. This was not a rebellion born in a moment, but a rivalry that brewed in the unseen chambers of the spirit. "I will ascend to the heavens," he said in his heart. "I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly. I will make myself like the Most High." These words, recorded in Isaiah, are more than prideful. They are reactionary. For the Most High had declared his intention to create man in his image and to give him dominion, not in heaven, but on earth. And to the light-bearer, this was unthinkable. Clay was to rule, dust was to be crowned, that which was formed below was to be lifted above. The throne that he had long admired, the glory he had long served, was now being shared with a creature inferior in power, beauty, and origin. Lucifer was not enraged by the idea of humanity's creation. He was enraged by its elevation. And thus, his rebellion was not just against God's rule, it was against God's will. He did not seek the throne merely to dethrone God, but to derail the plan that placed man at the center of divine destiny. For what the angels knew, and what we often forget, is that God's plan was never to exalt the strong, but to lift the lowly. He had always intended to dwell not in temples of gold, nor in creatures of fire, but in hearts of flesh. And that, to Lucifer, was an offense too great to bear. So he turned. He rallied others, angels who, like him, could not stomach the thought of dust becoming divine. A third of the stars were swept by his tail. The light-bearer became the adversary, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought, and Lucifer was cast down, not merely expelled, but exiled, thrown from glory to shadow, from light to darkness. And with him came the birth of a war that would never be fought over thrones again, but over souls. The human soul became the new battleground, not because it was powerful, but because it was chosen. Every whisper in Eden, every temptation in the wilderness, every accusation in the courtroom of heaven, all of it traces back to that moment of cosmic jealousy, when one being could not accept God's shocking preference for dust over flame. From the moment Lucifer was cast down, his fury has been laser-focused on destroying the very image of God imprinted upon mankind. For every soul he twists, he believes he tarnishes the glory God meant to share. Every child turned from the Father is, to him, a wound in the divine plan. But what he cannot destroy is what he cannot understand: grace. He knows justice, he knows power, he knows hierarchy, but he does not know the language of mercy. And so he continues his campaign, not from a position of strength, but of desperation. For even as he prowls, the plan continues. For every Adam that falls, a Savior is promised. For every Israel that stumbles, a covenant is renewed. For every sinner who turns, a throne is prepared. The jealousy of heaven birthed a war, but not one between equals. For the serpent may bruise the heel, but the seed will crush the head. Still, the war rages. Not in the heavens, it has been cast down. Not in politics, it has no interest there. But in hearts, in decisions, in worship. For every time a soul bows to the Lamb, Lucifer is reminded of his loss. Every time a sinner repents, the throne he once longed for grows more distant. And every time the Spirit breathes upon dust again, heaven rejoices and hell trembles. This is not mythology. This is not metaphor. This is the tension behind every trial, every temptation, every whispered lie. You are not just flesh. You are a battlefield, a vessel, a throne in waiting. And Satan hates you not because of who you are, but because of what God has destined you to become. For the divine plan has never changed. From the beginning, it was written that the Son would take on flesh, that the Spirit would dwell in man, and that dust would be glorified beyond the reach of angels. Lucifer fell because he refused to accept that. And still he refuses. But his time is short. The war is real. And the battleground, it's you. The garden was not merely a paradise. It was a stage, a temple, a cosmic battleground hidden beneath the canopy of innocence. Eden was more than trees and rivers. It was the dwelling place of God with man, the sacred meeting point where divine breath walked beside mortal clay. In this sanctuary of purity, Adam and Eve bore the image of the Most High, unbroken, untainted. They were not yet clothed in shame, nor clouded by death. Their eyes were clear. Their hands bore no blood. Their communion was direct. The earth itself responded to their footsteps, for they were given dominion, not by conquest, but by inheritance. They represented something Satan could not tolerate, dust that walked with God. Lucifer, now the serpent, did not come to corrupt nature, nor to defile the trees. His target was not creation, it was election. He came to fracture the bond between God and the ones he had chosen to rule. For Adam and Eve, though made lower than angels in strength, were higher in purpose. They were the crown of creation, destined not only to inhabit Eden, but to expand it, to multiply God's image across the earth, and ultimately to be vessels of divine glory. This was what Satan could not stand. The throne he had desired was now to be shared with them. And so, he slithered not in rage, but in strategy. He disguised himself not in fire, but in subtlety. He did not storm the garden, he whispered. His words were not shouted, they were questions. Did God really say? In that moment, he aimed not at flesh, but at identity, not at action, but at trust. If he could unravel their trust in the one who had formed them, the entire fabric of the divine plan would begin to tear. And Eve, made from Adam's side, listened. She did not conspire to overthrow God. She did not imagine herself evil. She simply wondered, was there more? Had God withheld something? The fruit hung there, beautiful and forbidden, and as her fingers closed around it, heaven held its breath. The bite was not loud, the fall was not violent, but in that moment, the garden tilted. The breath that once carried life now carried the chill of separation. Adam ate, and the image, once radiant, was marred. Shame entered like a shadow. They hid from the one they once walked with, and all of creation groaned as its stewards sank into exile. But even as judgment fell, a deeper plan began to unfold. For God, clothed in holiness, did not destroy them. He called to them, he pursued them, he clothed them, and then he prophesied, not to Adam, not to Eve, but to the serpent. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall bruise his heel. It was the first gospel, the proto-evangelion. The first whisper of redemption echoed in the shadow of rebellion. God declared war, not on man, but on the serpent, and the weapon would be the seed of the woman. This was staggering. For in a world where lineages traced through men, God promised that the deliverer would come not from Adam's authority, but from Eve's womb. A seed from her, fragile, human, wounded, would one day rise and crush the very head of the deceiver. Satan had struck the dust, hoping to destroy God's image. But God had hidden within that dust a future that would strike back. From that moment, every generation became a thread in the tapestry of redemption. Cain rose and fell. Seth was born. Noah built an ark. Abraham received a promise. David saw a throne, and always the serpent watched, knowing the seed was coming, but never knowing from whom. Every child born became a possible fulfillment, and every woman held within her the mystery of divine retaliation. And when at last the fullness of time came, the prophecy reached its climax, not in thunder, but in the cry of a baby, not in the courts of angels, but in a manger of straw. The seed had come, born of woman, wrapped in flesh, and Satan, though ancient and cunning, had failed to prevent it. He tried to tempt him in the wilderness. He tried to kill him through Rome. He stirred up a cross, not knowing it would become the crushing blow. And there, on Calvary, the heel of the promised seed was bruised, but the serpent's head was shattered. What began in Eden was finished at Golgotha. The drama of Eden was not just about disobedience, it was about inheritance. Satan knew that if humanity could be severed from its purpose, the kingdom would remain empty. But God had already woven redemption into the curse. He had written victory into the sentence. Even as Adam fell, Christ was prepared to rise. The garden was closed, but the plan had only begun. And to this day, the echoes of that ancient confrontation ripple through every life. The serpent still whispers, the dust still bleeds, but the seed still lives. And every time a soul turns back to God, the prophecy is fulfilled again. The serpent struck the dust, but it is the dust that will one day reign. It was the moment that split history, not with fire, but with flesh, not with conquest, but with quiet. The Creator, eternal and uncontainable, stepped into his own creation, not as a flame of glory or a thundering voice from heaven, but as a child, fragile, crying, wrapped in swaddling cloth and laid in a feeding trough. This was not myth or metaphor, it was incarnation. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The same Word that spoke galaxies into being now formed syllables with infant breath. The same hands that had carved mountains in the beginning now curled around the finger of a young mother in Bethlehem. And the angels watched, stunned, reverent, silent. For the one they worshipped, whose voice shook the heavens, had not taken on their nature. He did not come as a seraphim or a cherub. He did not blaze with fire or ride the storm. He took the form of a servant, made in the likeness of man. Clay, not flame. Dust, not light. This was not a rescue mission from a distance. It was union. Hebrews declares it plainly. He does not help angels, but the descendants of Abraham. There was no plan of redemption for the fallen angels. Their rebellion was final. But for man, for the ones made from dust, the plan was love. And love demanded nearness. So God stepped down, not in judgment, but in skin. The infinite became infant. The unseeable became visible. The immortal became vulnerable. It is a mystery that no doctrine can contain, no theology can fully express, that the High and Holy One, who inhabits eternity, entered time, culture, poverty, and pain. He did not hover above us. He became one of us. This is the mystery that crowned humanity with a worth far beyond merit, that God Himself deemed us worthy of becoming like us to save us. It was not enough to send angels. It was not enough to speak through prophets. The plan required incarnation, God with us, Emmanuel. And in that singular act, the divine choice was sealed forever. He who had always dwelt beyond the veil now tore the veil by entering it. The separation caused by sin began to tremble, for the very presence of God now moved among men again. But more than that, He was born among them. He learned language, He grew, He wept, He got hungry, He felt betrayal, He touched lepers, He heard prayers from the poor, and yet in every heartbeat, He remained fully divine. Never once did His holiness waver. He who knew no sin became sin for us. The Incarnation was not a disguise, it was a descent. The King put on the garments of His own subjects not to pretend, but to redeem. The God who had walked with Adam now walked among Adam's children, not in wrath, but in sandals. The angels marveled. For the one who had once been seated above the cherubim now sat beside fishermen. The one who had flung stars across the cosmos now slept under them. This was not weakness, it was glory redefined. The Incarnation was the great reversal. That which was high became low, so that the low could be lifted high, and it was permanent. When Jesus rose, He did not shed His humanity like a cloak. He ascended as a man, glorified, yes, but still human. He did not merely visit humanity, He joined Himself to it, forever. This is the ultimate mystery of love. Not that God saw us, but that God became us. Not that He stooped to lift us, but that He chose to dwell among us. Every part of His life on earth was intentional. His tears were divine tears, His laughter divine joy, His pain divine suffering. He did not pretend to be man, He truly was, and because of that, He became the perfect mediator. Not a distant judge, but a high priest who sympathizes with our weakness, tempted in every way yet without sin. This is what makes the Incarnation not just a theological marvel, but the heart of the gospel. God Himself stood in our place. The blood that ran through His veins was not metaphorical, it was real, spilled, poured out for us. And it began with that quiet moment in Bethlehem, when the plan exploded beyond comprehension, when Heaven's King chose a manger instead of a throne, when the Eternal entered time not with a shout, but with a cry. And in that cry, the destiny of mankind was secured. For now, we no longer reach toward heaven alone. Heaven has reached toward us, forever. Grace, in its purest form, is offensive, not because it is unjust, but because it is undeserved. And nowhere is that offense more sharply felt than in the divide between angels and humanity. For while both were created by God, only one was chosen for redemption. Angels who sinned, those who followed Lucifer in his rebellion, were cast down with no path to return. Their fall was final, their sentence sealed, their glory extinguished in an instant. There was no cross for them, no intercession, no redeemer. They had seen the face of God, stood in the blaze of His holiness, moved in the currents of His will, and still they turned. Their choice was absolute, and so was their judgment. But for man, who also fell, who listened to a lie, broke a command, and doubted the very goodness of God, a different sentence was spoken. Not one of instant destruction, but of delayed judgment, of mercy, of promise. The seed of the woman shall crush the serpent's head. From the moment Adam and Eve stepped into exile, the plan of redemption was already in motion. And that plan did not center on punishment, but on presence. For man was not merely created to obey, he was created to carry, to be indwelt. The breath of God that filled his lungs in Eden had not vanished. It had been veiled by sin. And so, for that breath to return, something greater than forgiveness was needed. Incarnation was needed. God would not simply pardon from afar. He would enter, he would dwell, he would tabernacle within man. And that is where grace becomes unbearable to the logic of heaven. For angels, mighty in power and flawless in origin, were never offered such intimacy. They were never called temples, never called sons, never told that God would one day live in them. But for us, for the fallen, broken, dust-formed children of earth, this was the plan. Not just rescue, not just cleansing, but union. The Spirit of God, once housed in the Holy of Holies, now dwells in every believer. We are not merely forgiven, we are inhabited. And this is why grace offends. It lifts what should be low. It crowns what should be cast away. It transforms vessels of shame into instruments of glory. The fallen angels did not misunderstand justice. They understood it too well. What they could not grasp was mercy. That God would pass over their rebellion to save the weaker, the dirt-born, the undeserving. That he would pour out his Spirit, not into celestial fire, but into clay. And yet that is exactly what he did. Because grace is not given where it's deserved. It is given where it reveals. Angels were vessels of power, but man was destined to become the home of God. This is why our redemption required incarnation. Because God could not dwell in us unless he first became one of us. The Word had to become flesh so that flesh could receive the Word. The Spirit had to descend not upon a throne, but upon a cross. Only then could the breath return. Only then could the indwelling begin. And now, what was once restricted to Eden, once hidden behind curtains of gold and woven veil, now moves freely among the broken and the believing. It is scandalous, it is beautiful, it is holy. Grace is not fair, but it is divine. And it reveals a truth that rewrites every hierarchy. That weakness is not a disqualification, it is the requirement. For God dwells not in temples made by hands, but in hearts made humble. He fills not the proud, but the surrendered. And every angel who watches this unfolding mystery knows humanity was not chosen for its strength, but for its capacity to receive. The offense of grace is this, that those who fell can rise, that those who were last can be made first, that those who were cast out of Eden can now carry Eden within. It is not a loophole, it is not favoritism, it is the wisdom of God. And one day, when the redeemed shine like stars in the kingdom of their Father, seated beside the Lamb, robed in righteousness not their own, the angels will see the fullness of that grace made manifest. And they will not protest, they will worship. For the glory of God is not just in his justice, it is in his mercy. And man, once formed from dust, will stand as living proof that the breath still lives, that the word still dwells, and that grace still reigns. From the first whisper of creation to the final trumpet of revelation, the divine plan was never content with mere rescue. It always pointed toward rule. Salvation was never the end of the story. It was the beginning of restoration, and not just restoration of innocence, but exaltation into glory. For the Lamb who was slain did not die merely to cleanse us from sin. He died to seat us with him. The vision granted to John on the island of Patmos peels back the veil of eternity and shows us what human eyes were never meant to see. the throne of God, radiant and roaring with glory, surrounded not by angels, but by thrones prepared for men. Around the throne are 24 others, not occupied by cherubim or seraphim, but by elders, figures representing the fullness of the redeemed, crowned with gold, clothed in white, seated in authority. And Jesus, with all power in heaven and earth, declares, "To the one who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me on my throne, just as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne." This is not poetic metaphor. It is the shocking climax of God's choice to elevate humanity above even the highest of angelic hosts. Thrones shared, crowns bestowed, authority delegated, not to the flames of heaven, but to the dust he redeemed. The very church, mocked and martyred through the ages, is not just the body of Christ. It is his bride, chosen not only for love, but for reign. And what bride shares the heart of her husband, but not his inheritance? This union is no abstraction. Paul writes that we are seated with Christ in the heavenly realms even now, our spirits already joined in his victory, waiting only for the final unveiling. The book of Daniel foresaw it. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened, and the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Angels serve, but we shall rule, not because we are worthy, but because the Lamb is, not because we are mighty, but because grace has made us co-heirs with Christ. This is what creation groans for, not merely redemption from sin, but the revealing of the sons and daughters of God in glory. Thrones yet unfilled wait in heaven, carved not from gold, but from covenant. Seats reserved not for the powerful, but for the faithful, for the overcomers, for the meek who shall inherit the earth, for the ones who endured. The throne of God is surrounded by witnesses, but it will be surrounded also by rulers, those who once wept on earth, but now reign in eternity. And the angels, though radiant in splendor, do not occupy these seats. They stand, they worship, but they do not sit. Sitting implies rest, authority, shared dominion. And that is the inheritance of the redeemed. The ones who bore the cross now bear the crown. The ones who were beaten now bear the scepter. This is the mystery of the gospel, that we, once enemies of God, now rule beside him, not as servants who clawed their way upward, but as sons and daughters who were lifted by grace. And what does this mean for us now, in the present? That every act of faith, every hidden obedience, every tear sown in silence, echoes into eternity. That the narrow road we walk now leads not to obscurity, but to coronation. That our destiny is not mere survival, but sovereign partnership with the King of Kings. The New Jerusalem is not just a city, it is a throne room. And in it, the redeemed do not merely gather, they govern. For the Lamb who rules the nations does not rule alone. He rules with his bride, his body, his beloved. And every angel will see it, not with resentment, but with reverence. For they were not passed over. They were never destined for such a place. The plan from the beginning was to lift dust into glory, to crown the weak, to enthrone the forgiven. The thrones are yet to be filled, but they are already prepared. And if you are in Christ, your name is already written not just in the book of life, but in the seating plan of the eternal kingdom. The day is coming when what was hidden will be revealed. The overcomers will rise, the thrones will be filled, and the Lamb will rejoice, not in solitude, but surrounded by those for whom he gave everything. The kingdom is not coming for angels, it is coming for you. There is a silence in heaven that is not born of absence, but of awe. A hush that descends not when God is distant, but when something so incomprehensible unfolds that even the oldest beings in creation cannot speak. The angels, those radiant firstborn of glory, unblemished by sin and forged in fire, have seen much. They have witnessed the birth of stars, the rise and fall of kingdoms, the thunder of God's voice, and the terror of his judgments. They have stood watch at the gates of Eden with flaming swords and sung over fields outside Bethlehem as the incarnate God drew his first breath. But there is one sight, one story, one unfolding miracle that causes even these immortal watchers to pause in reverent wonder: the redemption of man. Peter tells us that these celestial beings long to look into these things, as if the drama of salvation is a divine spectacle too marvelous to ignore. They lean forward, as it were, with faces lit not by glory, but by curiosity, watching the Spirit move through history, watching sinners become saints, rebels become sons, dust become divine dwelling places. They watch as the blood of the Lamb washes guilt not from warriors, but from the weak. They see former blasphemers fall to their knees in repentance. They hear the prayers of the broken rise like incense to the throne, and they wonder, not because they don't believe it, but because they cannot feel it. They know holiness, they know power, they know justice, but they do not know grace. They have never needed it. They have never tasted mercy. They have never wandered in darkness only to be rescued by light. To them, the gospel is a riddle, a holy paradox in which God gives everything to gain the ones who deserve nothing. They see the bloodied cross, the crown of thorns, the bruised and crucified Son of God, and they do not recoil. They worship, for they know who he is. They have seen him enthroned in majesty, clothed in light, worshipped without ceasing. And now they see him lowered, humbled, crucified, and still they cry, "Holy." But their song is not the song of the redeemed. That song belongs to us, to those who were dead and now live, to those who were once enemies and now are heirs. The angels see redemption, but we live it. And that, more than any miracle, causes them to marvel. For in no realm of heaven was it ever conceived that dust could become holy, that rebels could wear crowns, that the broken could become the bride. Redemption is not just a transaction. It is a transformation. It is the Creator taking residence in his creature. It is the blood of Christ rewriting the story of a soul. And every time it happens, every time a sinner repents, every time a heart surrenders, every time a prodigal comes home, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels, not because they have experienced it, but because they see its glory, because they know what it means. They know what was paid. They see the Lamb standing as though slain, his scars eternal, his love unending, and they understand. This is the story not of what God can do, but of who God is. And so they worship, not just the power of God, but the mercy of God, not just his justice, but his grace. And though they are not partakers, they are witnesses. Witnesses to the mystery that has unfolded since Eden, that found its climax at Calvary, and that continues today in every heart that turns from darkness to light. The wonder of redemption is not just that it saves, that it transforms. And in that transformation, the angels see something they never knew they lacked: the intimacy of grace, the scandal of forgiveness, the unthinkable humility of God himself, reaching down into the dust to raise a child. It is a wonder that will never grow old. It is the eternal drama that causes heaven's oldest voices to sing new songs. And when the redeemed gather at the throne, clothed in white, singing the song of the Lamb, the angels will still stand, watching, marveling, praising, for they know this is love beyond comprehension. This is mercy made visible. This is glory shared with dust. And though they cannot join the chorus of the redeemed, they will never stop listening to its echo. When time dissolves into eternity, and the veil that once separated heaven and earth is lifted forever, there will come a moment so staggering, so final, that every being in heaven, on earth, and beneath the earth will fall silent. The books will be opened, not by angelic hands, but by the one whose scars speak louder than thunder. The Lamb who was slain, now standing in glory, will rise to receive the nations as his inheritance. And in that holy stillness, the great reversal will be revealed. Not the strong exalted, but the weak redeemed. Not the perfect preserved, but the broken restored. And as the courts of heaven echo with anticipation, it will not be the angels who step forward to sing the song of the redeemed. It will be us, the dust-born, sin-stained, once lost sons and daughters of men, now clothed in robes of white, now crowned with glory, now seated with Christ on thrones once prepared in silence before the foundation of the world. This is the final mystery, that you, though lower than the angels, were destined to reign above them. That you, once chased from Eden, now dwell in the city of God. That you, who once bore the image marred by sin, now shine with the likeness of the Son. This was not a divine experiment. It was a plan sealed in love before the first star was lit. The Lamb was slain before the world began, and your name, yes, your name, was written in his book, not when you believed, but when he chose. The gravity of that love is unbearable. It is not fair. It is not balanced. It is not deserved. But it is true. He did not choose you because you were strong. He chose you because he is love. And that love, fierce and unfailing, rewrote the hierarchy of creation. It placed thrones where there was dust. It placed crowns where there was shame. It placed glory where there was once guilt. And now the angels stand, not in confusion, but in reverence, as the redeemed rise, not by merit, but by mercy, to take their place beside the Lamb. The voice that once spoke galaxies into being now calls you beloved. The hand that wrote the law in fire now wipes every tear from your eye. And the throne that once radiated unapproachable light now welcomes you home. Not as a servant, not even as a guest, but as family, as bride, as heir. The eternal kingdom does not echo with the sound of angels alone. It resonates with the voices of those who were once sinners, now saints, of those who were once wounded, now whole. And their song, the song no angel can sing, will fill the heavens. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, for with your blood you purchased us for God. And in that chorus, every moment of pain, every season of doubt, every trial and temptation will be swallowed by joy. For the great story has ended and begun anew, and it ends not in distance, but in union, not in questions, but in clarity. The final mystery is not why man was created, or why angels fell, or even why the serpent struck. The final mystery is this, that he chose you, freely, lovingly, eternally. And that choice, more than fire, more than thrones, more than angels, reveals the heart of the God who writes destinies with blood, who lifts the lowly with nail-scarred hands, and who, in the end, will stand surrounded by those he loved into glory. Dust, crowned with eternity. That is your destiny. That is his joy. That is the reason you were chosen.